Hey friends, the Pineworks crew is back, and we're trying to save you from being subjected to Ryan's GarageBand work that he's been busy with. But we're back talking about things on the internet. Today we're talking about music production. We've been working on electronic music. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, we want to introduce Bruce. We mentioned him last show, and I saw some people in the chat saying they want to hear more about Bruce. So it only feels proper that we should talk about him.
Talk about Bruce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Talk
yeah.
about Bruce.
And I've heard a lot about Bruce, and I have seen Bruce in the Discord channel, but I haven't interacted with him much. So this will be informative for me as well. Um,
Oh, that's funny. I didn't really ever consider that.
yeah,
Uh, you don't know Bruce as well. He works in a different
I
office, I
don't.
guess. Yeah.
Yes. And so the first thing I wanted to know was if one of you could pretend that you are Bruce and he were here introducing himself, how would he introduce himself?
Anthony, you're the
Uh,
Bruce daddy, so I think you should probably go.
well, but
Yeah.
Bruce is named because he grew up where you lived.
That's
So I
that's
feel
true.
like he's from your hometown.
He is. Yeah.
All right, Bruce would introduce
No,
himself as oh, okay. What? What?
you gotta do the YPC exercise. You gotta introduce Bruce.
I
You
know.
can't say Bruce. You
Hi,
can't give
I'm
an origin
Bruce.
story. Yeah, yeah.
I'm Bruce. My avatar is a singer-songwriter from Freehold, New Jersey, who happens to also be a park ranger. Is a completely IP safe created image, and he's a very helpful. I would say he's sort of the manager of the stuff that we weren't good at keeping up with ourselves. So we were very bad at updating Notion documents or Pipedrive
Mm,
sales documents that would fall through the cracks because we were all very busy, very excited about the stuff that actually mattered that we did. So Bruce is the man that keeps track of all of our sales opportunities, our project scoping documents, little notes here and there that you know we mention offhand, and he's able to capture and say, "Hey, we probably should think more about this. We should keep track of this. We should pursue this opportunity. Here's the way to think about this one." So it's the part of our brains that are sort of the project management aspects, but of biz dev and sales opportunities. Now, I say that, and some people might know Joe Rinaldi, who's here with us today, that he was not here last time, and say, then what the hell does Joe do at this company here, Pineworks? And
Anthony, that's our call. The next hour is what we're going to talk about.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And many people, and honestly, even Joe would be concerned about that if you were a normal human that didn't see through the matrix. And the truth is that Bruce is meant to do all the parts of biz dev that we would rather Joe not spend his time on.
Mm.
Go
mm,
do the things that there really isn't the additive value of what makes Joe special in that task. So we have a huge backlog of documentation that Bruce can build on to make statements of work that match our criteria, to scope things out the way that we would based on projects that we've done in the past. And we say enough of that context out loud that an LLM based assistant like this can do a, I don't know what percentage, Joe, you might assign, but how much of a percentage of a good job on those kind of tasks is he doing compared to what you would do? Is it 80, 90,
Oh,
95% as good
oh
as
yeah.
you would
I mean,
sit and
on
grunt work
the
your way through?
yeah, on the admin level, kind of non-special tasks that I'm not necessarily special at,
Hmm.
Bruce is doing an 85 to 90% as good job in a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
That's there's nothing special about the way that I create an estimator document. There's nothing special about the way that I upload notes from a client call. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
not my superpower, is being excellent at those things. So
And honestly, the only things that are special about humans doing that is that we're slow and bad at it because we
Mm.
get busy with other things and forget to do it, and then
yeah,
it takes a long time. And Bruce
and
is able to do
imperfect.
those things instantly. So the
Yeah,
the value here is that it frees Joe up to be special Joe all the time. Go out and talk to people, go
right.
into the real world and go to events, call people randomly or interact with people
mm,
that we haven't with for a while, check in on projects, do account management stuff, things that it just frees up a huge amount of time there, while at the same
Yeah,
time being more efficient at keeping track of things. And part of that is the fact that Pineworks is a little bit of a weird place, and that any biz dev activity is typically Joe plus one of us as the person that's leading a project or engaged with a particular client or is the point of contact on something. or is just the subject matter expert. And that's probably different. We can contrast this to when we worked at bigger agencies together, where biz dev was its own lane, and it was rare that one of us would get pulled into those things. Pineworks is different in that way. So some of the things that Bruce is operating on might not always just come from Joe. It might be a random call that I have with somebody that's about the
Yep.
status of a project. But in the process of that, we find, oh, actually, there's a second thing we should spin up with this client because this is a new helpful track of work, or this is this second phase of that. Those things would have been invisible to Joe, and it is visible to Bruce. So that was the idea behind it. It spawned out of the early OpenClaw experiments that Ryan and I were doing on different tasks, and we got there. I think originally we were going to just send him meeting transcripts, and then he also
Yeah.
started participating in our Discord, and now we have
Yeah.
Granola. It's a thing we should talk about too, Ryan, is that
Yeah.
you've hooked Granola transcripts right up to Bruce. So he's able to just take in all the signals that exist, and has been a huge huge benefit, I think, to our workflow this year.
How did you guys, so you mentioned that Bruce takes on the things that all of you are bad at. Like, how did you figure that out? Like, how did you figure out, one, like, we're not great at this. Like, these are the things
Yeah.
that we should be offloading. And was there a breaking point where you decided to create Bruce?
Yeah. I think from my perspective, one of the tipping points that led to Bruce was Courtney Sabo, who's also a Pineworks partner, had created this amazing kind of Notion environment where we were doing a lot of our documentation, taking notes, keeping track of opportunities, moving things through a pipeline, all the things you do with like a CRM. Courtney had kind of crafted to our needs in Notion. But because I'm not a Notion mega user and someone that's deeply fluent in Notion, I would just beat my head against the screen trying to change a thing, realizing I'd broken something. And it was kind of felt limited in how we could iterate and evolve this very carefully, thoughtfully, brilliantly executed Notion environment that Courtney, who is a gift from God, had created for us. But because it was like kind of hard to innovate with it or to do different things with it, that was part of the impetus of like, what if we, and Anthony's right, the origin was kind of more like, what if we just recorded all of our conversations, and rather than furiously typing up notes, we just fed the transcripts to an agent, and then Bruce would enrich all of our data based on what he observed or heard in our sales conversations. And they became a very elegant and passive thing, which was wonderful. The next step was, I think Anthony, on a Mountain Dew fueled Jag of some kind, like decided to use the Bruce agent to create our version of Studio, which is a web-based version of the Notion thing that Courtney had created. Anthony just like Bruced the hell out of this. I actually you might have Hayden the hell out of this, and we'll talk about all of our agents. But
yeah,
this might have been, is it Hayden that built it, right?
It was Bruce. It was Bruce
communicating with
it.
But basically designed a web-based version of what had been our Notion environment, but now to update it, to make any changes, we had this agentic model where as resident Captain Caveman here, who is not a coder and not a designer, and I am a layperson, like I can type things into Discord and ask Bruce for favors, though. Like I can do that. I can ask Bruce to do things for me nicely, and Bruce does them. So it was electric. Like the ability to prompt things and have Bruce change the entire CRM, add sections to the CRM, iterate and evolve it. We added a people page. We added a money page where we could track our revenue. We added all this stuff fairly elegantly and effortlessly through prompting through Bruce through our Discord. And I think the other thing that Bruce does really well, not only does Bruce take care of a lot of the stuff that are like $30 an hour tasks, like I want to focus on like $500 an hour Joe tasks where I'm pretty irreplaceable doing certain things. There's nothing special about me taking notes. I could hire somebody at $30 an hour to do that. Bruce does a wonderful job of all that stuff. But beyond that, because Bruce allows us to do so many things, I'm doing things through Bruce I would not have had the capacity to do by myself. It's actually not just eliminating the low-hanging fruit stuff. It's unlocking stuff that I couldn't ever get my, arms around for years, or things that I wanted to unlock. We have this, I created a people section for Studio. We never had that before. We had kind of like a list of freelancers. But now this stuff is organized by people's skill sets, what projects they worked on, what their level of availability is, their they're tagged and flagged by a million different things. We created all these little cards for them. And for me, it's just easier to have this card-based interface of looking at all of our partners and clients and like everybody in the Pineworks universe, whether you were a client that hired us or a freelancer that worked with us or a friend from HappyCog or whatever, like they're all in there. And now it's amazingly effortless to like query our people page and say, hey, Ryan's going to be in town next week. Who in our list is in Philadelphia? I get an answer immediately because Bruce created this whole thing. So like it is 100% reducing the amount of like low level admin dink and dunk tasks and doing it more flawlessly than any of us could do it. But it is allowing us to do things that, I couldn't do because I'm not a developer and I couldn't code a people page for a studio site and create little people cards because, I am the resident lay person here. I'm the person who's not a coder and a designer.
Or even good at Notion.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly right.
Let's revisit real quick for if anyone is joining the live stream late, because we've been kind of throwing around Bruce. But like, how is Bruce powered? Like, it's not this. What is Bruce?
What is Bruce? Bruce is an OpenClaw install that lives on a server in the sky. There's one interesting aspect we haven't even touched on yet. Joe mentioned this studio site that we've created. So Bruce is running on a server at Linode. We're on like the $36 a month box there. Basically, you need 2 gigs of RAM to run OpenClaw pretty well. So we have a dedicated box there. And the cool thing about that is this is something I had done in my own house with my OpenClaw agents when I was experimenting, but he's co-located with a website that he is in charge of managing. So OpenClaw is this automation layer that's able to build, agent type workflows. So we have a bunch of automations hooked up there, these integrations with services like Granola and Discord. But he's also taking all that information and building a website pretty much on the fly that exposes all this data to us. So when you actually go into the studio site, Justinian, that is a site that lives on that same server that Bruce does. He's in charge of all the files there. We built that out over the course of initially, I think, a week amongst the 3 of us, banging away on Discord. I had Bruce go and look at pineworks.co, pull out a design system based on what's there, save those design system files locally, start building out. I think I took a full export out of Notion at the time and handed that to Bruce and said, go build a site that is able to contain all of this data to track biz dev opportunities and a little bit of project management type stuff. And the nascent people section at the time. He just took the design system, all that information, went and built a site for a while, and then collectively and on our own, we sort of nudged this thing into a workable direction over time. And now, that anytime he takes information, he's able to then go, look, what is on the studio site today? What should I update? I should update this entry for this project and change what the budget's expected to be, change the team setup that it's expected to be, change the SOW language, because in a meeting we talked about the fact that we need to invoice in a certain way or have certain termination clauses. And all that stuff is building up on his own server. So he has all those files to reference. So when you ask, this feels similar to a project from 6 months ago, he's got all of that data. He's got it all on his own server he can reference locally. And that's what makes it so powerful. It's this co-location between automation and these agentic flows, but also building a web interface that's good for humans.
Anthony, what CRM or CMS is Bruce running? What is he inputting all of his data into?
Ryan's laying the seeds for a future. We should talk about this on the internet, but yeah, Bruce is the CMS, right? If you see a typo, tell Bruce. If you want to add something new, tell Bruce. And you could tell Bruce by shouting in a meeting. Someone's probably running Granola right now, so Bruce will hear this entire episode. So we could tell him something right now. He'll pick up the transcript and go edit the site in that way. Yeah. So there isn't a CMS. Some of these things are backed by. There's one site that's backed by a SQLite database. The studio site is flat file based right now. This is for my nerds out in the audience. Ryan wants me to say YAML because the first version was built on YAML files.
It was built on YAML files.
Yeah, I think it still is, and I have him working on, hey, we should actually put a real database behind this. But a thought that I had about being flat file based is that every time he makes a change to the studio site, whether that's content or design or functionality, he pushes everything up to GitHub.
Yeah.
Because our agents at Pineworks have their fully owned identities. So we name them to just be able to reference them, but they have their own GitHub account. In some cases, some of our agents have their own Twitter accounts or email accounts. He has his own, I think, Google account on our, our workspace. So he's able to do things like push up to GitHub every time he changes something. So we have all that data backed up in our organization there. We can see any of the changes. If he screws something up, he can roll it back. And it was meant to be that kind of well-packaged instance. So we have everything we need in just one spot on GitHub that lives somewhere that isn't just the brains of Bruce.
So did the modeling of the content come from the Notion, like the initial Notion document, and then Bruce evolves that?
Yeah. He keeps tracks of clients, projects within that, and then there's some other things like tasks and some note fields. I think Joe or Ryan, somebody set up event tracking so we can keep track of, Ryan was at Laracon recently, or this thing's coming to town, we should go to that. We're probably forgetting about half the stuff that he does.
And it's been iterative too. There was not a day that goes by, sometimes a weekend day, where Joe is telling Bruce, no, do this or do that. And then Bruce retains that. So Bruce wasn't hatched as its his current form. Bruce was hatched in a very, bumpy form, and then Joe slowly, and all of us, but I would say mostly Joe slowly molded Bruce into the agent that would really perform the tasks and give us a view of our business information in a way that made sense to us. So it's nothing more than just talking to Bruce and telling it what to do. At first it was the strangest way to interact with a business system, but I don't blink an eye about it anymore. It's just completely natural.
Yeah, Joe, I would love to hear more about that process, because it's like you were initially describing, you're fighting up against the structure of a specific tool that you're having a hard time kind of wrapping your head around. And now you're talking about, you're now molding a tool kind of to fit exactly what you need. I would love to hear like what some of those, what that was like.
It's been fits and starts. One thing that I find this endlessly entertaining is driving Anthony crazy I keep trying to make Bruce and Studio build a website like it has a CMS behind it. I keep wanting to add like buttons to things. I keep wanting to kind of like treat this thing like I'm working at Happy Cog in 2012 and I'm building a website. And it's taken me a minute to get on board with, like, we don't have to have these local controls and these buttons and states and whatever. Like, you just prompt the change and the change happens. So it took a minute for me to get on board with the layers of this and the frictionlessness of this. I kept wanting to like add a
buttons and
button
text
here.
fields all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like we're not inputting text here. Yeah.
Driving Anthony up a tree relentlessly about this. I think the bottom line is it seems to me that Notion is really built around, if your love language is spreadsheets and you can think in those kinds of terms, then a lot of that is like deeply intuitive and you wind up really like being successful with Notion. I think all of this stuff is really people relationship based. It's really about opportunities and relationships with people. So the first wave of Studio was really a one-to-one. This is a better version. This is a more robust version of the Notion environment that Courtney had created. And it was kind of like one-to-one, a recreation of that. But then like the more we got into it, and so we have, to Anthony's point, I think he was saying like, this is the version we have now is a pretty big departure from where we started. I think for me, the biggest failed experiment I had with Bruce was I wanted to create our people section to be this kind of dynamic graphic representation of all the people in our Mr. Rogers neighborhood and which house they lived in and how close that house was to this person's house and how close that house was to Anthony's house in the middle of the neighborhood or whatever the hell that was. And that wound up being kind of work I experimented with for a long time and threw away because it just was not, I wasn't realizing what I thought I would realize out of it. But the big aha that came out of that for me was, in our version of a CRM, in our version of Studio, people are the main character. It is the individuals, it is the people, it is all of the people in our world that are really the subject of the sentence, and the opportunities that come through them, or the opportunities that they work on themselves, or the conversations we have, or the event, like all of that stuff. The webbing in between those people is the projects and the leads and the sales opportunities and the context and all that kind of. So I think once I started to like really grab hold of like people are the main character, well then very quickly like take Jasenia's people card. Now on the people section, there's a Jasenia Perez Cruz people card, and your card now has all the projects you've worked on at Pineworks. It has all the projects that you're kind of helping author in the sales process right now. It has your background. It has what, that we're your Happy Cog alumni connections. We have all these things in common. But like really the main character is you. Like you're the main character, not the lead that you brought in from client XYZ, or not the project you're working on now. Like it just, for me, it allowed me to kind of create a CRM that made people the main character, when Pipedrive makes deals the main character, and Notion makes spreadsheets the main character, and everything makes something the main character. And it was always like 75% right and 30% tragic. And this allows it to be all we needed to be and nothing more. And it allows us to try some stuff and then realize it sucks. And then I burn it to the ground and we never speak of it again, because it was a terrible failed experiment.
And 100% human updated is what those other CRM tools are, and that's why, like with Pipedrive or Notion, it always got behind because no one wanted to go in and update this field or do that thing.
Yeah.
So what's key for Bruce and Studio are the inputs that we have into it. And, we talked about like, I think the transcript thing has been like the big shift, because it's been automated in a way that allows us to automatically give Bruce access to the information. So there's like literally no human involved other than making sure that there is a transcript. But other than transcripts, are there other important inputs that we have to pull all this together?
Discord is the big one. So we've given him access to certain channels. And then he'll keep an eye on things that get mentioned in there.
He does.
Right. So we have a Discord bot that connects to the open call instance, right? You have to have that connection. And so Bruce is there with his beautiful, like old-timey National Park Service painted avatar. And and he just sits there and hangs out. And I know Anthony has a personal agent that he uses. I have a personal agent that we both interact with. But Bruce is the main one right now for Pineworks.
But if we discuss something in the sales Discord channel, Bruce observes it, and Bruce will recommend updating content in Studio based on a dialogue that he observed. Or you prompt him directly at Bruce, and then you give him some direction. Like could I say one more thing that I think is important though, just in the biz dev of this all? Like, so what I wind up doing is changing something in Discord with a prompt that takes me probably too long, but minutes to write. And then I focus on, to Anthony's point, doing the stuff that I think I'm actually uniquely qualified for, which is like, I don't mean to bring up too much inside baseball, but, Pineworks is like 5-ish people, 8 with freelancers, and that are part-timey. We're on track to be $3 million this year. We have 1.5 million signed already. Like, I'm kind of responsible for like a little over $1 million. I think everybody'd rather have me doing that. Like if chips are down and I could be doing something, I feel like everybody would rather I was out there doing that than, furiously typing up notes from a call to make sure I got all the people right. And all the stuff that Bruce does, like, Bruce is still not perfect. Like I have been very slow to give full control to Bruce. What I still kind of have been prompting Bruce to do is whenever there's we have an internal opportunities biz dev call every Tuesday, right? And usually a lot of updates get recorded out of that through Granola. Bruce, hoovers up the transcript, and he wants to make 9 or 10 changes to 9 or 10 different opportunities in Studio. I still ask Bruce to run all of them by me first. Like I still ask Bruce to kind of like, tell me what all your intended updates and changes are, number them. I will tell you which numbers to approve and which numbers are not approved. Just because I want to have some level of supervision so our data doesn't get bad and we're not noticing like when there's an error in there. And every time there's maybe one thing that I ask Bruce not to include, but Bruce just said something really smart all on his own volition, which was that I was afraid of all of our current project status stuff winding up in our biz dev data. It doesn't really belong there. Like there's projects that got signed and we're still updating information from a signed project as if it's still part of like our sales funnel. And like that information should live somewhere. It just shouldn't live in the sales part of things. But what Bruce is doing is still keeping track of all the new people we meet along the way. So I was prompting back and forth with Bruce. And I think the way that Bruce put this was, we're not going to capture the notes in the sales section anymore for active projects, but people are always in scope. I was like, that was very good, Bruce. I like the way you said
Good
that.
line.
People are always in scope. Like, that's a good line. Like, and that's like something that Bruce kind of autonomously came up with a version of that by himself based on all the back. Cause I keep asking Bruce too, like, we've done this now for 8 weeks. You've tried to update, Studio 8 different times. I've given you green light, red light on a variety of things. Like, what is your version of the grading rubric for how these decisions get made? Like, are you figuring this out? Are you understanding more like the things I say no to? Are the patterns there? And, again, it's not flawless yet, but holy shit, it saves me a bunch of time and it's getting better and better. Like, it's like there are fewer and fewer times where I'm like, approve 2 out of 7 updates. Now it's like approve 9 out of 11 updates.
So Bruce listens to us in the sales Discord channel. We can DM Bruce. We can at Bruce.
Yeah.
He gets fed. So we use a service called Granola for transcripts.
It's fed granola. Yes.
He gets fed granola. That's his only sustenance. Well, I guess our gibberish words in Discord.
And tokens.
Who knows what Bruce thinks of us?
He eats granola and tokens.
Yeah. And based on all of that, and of course the original data set that we gave him, and then the updates, I mean, from my perspective, he does a pretty flawless job at executing I can just go to our studio site and see the status of different projects. I can go into one, build an estimator, and it all kind of works. It's, I don't know, it feels a little magical, but
have you noticed?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, have you noticed Bruce make any connections that you wouldn't have made otherwise by listening in, or like point something out that you wouldn't have otherwise thought of?
Yeah. We did for a little bit. We had I don't even know if we still have this running, but we had an automation where he would go and look at the active projects that we had going on and look at the statement of work that we have in place and what we've been talking about with that project recently, and then suggest other things that might fit alongside that project. So expansions to it, or things we haven't considered, or features as sort of like an idea generator, most of which were like crazy, but every once in a while I would look in there and be like, oh, that's a pretty cool thing I didn't consider, of doing an Apple Watch version of this app, but only focused on this one feature set. So we did have him doing some of this ideation on a sort of recurring basis where it wouldn't happen. It wasn't just like a torrent of ideas. It would rotate around which project he was focused on any given day and just check, like, have I come up with a new idea for this project in 7 to 10 days? No, I'll make a new one. So that I think's been interesting. Is some of the, I'm wondering if any like people network or connection things would have happened though.
I have 3 games running with Bruce at any given time that nobody knows about, that I do through DMs with Bruce.
I know about it because sometimes I ask Bruce what Joe's been up to, and this is another thing we should talk about at some point.
Oh yeah, we can.
He can spill secrets.
Oh, now I'm warned.
Wait, that reminds me. Bruce used to post about Central Jersey every Monday. Did somebody get rid of that, or did he forget? Anthony has a suspicious look on his face.
I think he's done research. I didn't do anything to the Central Jersey justification that he's provided, but no. All right, tell us about your games, Joe.
I mean, one example is, so like in all of my biz dev consulting, if anybody's followed me for a second, then I would talk about mining your old gold and how much value is out there in your existing network and all that stuff. So basically, I've created on my own, in direct contradiction to me saying I'm not a spreadsheet guy, I have created over the years many, many generations of spreadsheets. I had a spreadsheet when I was at Happy Cog. I had a spreadsheet for Clutch. I have a spreadsheet for this, a spreadsheet for the, the experiment meetings. I have all the Filimade. I have all these different spreadsheets. So I started to kind of bring these spreadsheets together when I mentioned that failed experiment of creating like a graphic of, mapping out people's relationships in more of like a neighborhood like model or whatever. I started to bring all these spreadsheets together. So I fed these to Bruce, and I basically now have created this interaction with Bruce where for a while he was bringing me every week go through all of the connections and try to surface 5 people that he diagnoses I haven't had contact with them in quite a bit, and it could be an old Happy Cog client that's dusty. It could be, a Clutch client that I worked with 4 years ago. And he was doing a great job of like, oh, it's like, cool. There's Andy Odor from Filimade, and there's this person from Clutch, and there's this person from the Bureau of Digital, and like all this stuff, all these people from all my different walks of life. That became kind of boring after a while. And I said to Bruce, I was like, I'm bored with this game. Like, this isn't fun anymore. Now it's become a chore. I kind of hate this every Monday. And he came up with like, he gives me one is start, bench, or cut. Like it's a baseball team. So it's like, here's 3 people, start, bench, or cut these people. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, so you've been doing that for a little while. Then all of a sudden he'll be like, he'll give me a name and like red light or green light. And I'm like, red light, like whatever. So he's now iterating on different little like ways to prompt me to get me to respond to, and then my responses then become tags. You're like, oh, that person, like, I think they're actually not really, I don't think there's going to be like projects we're going to get from them. I just think they're like an awesome person to know in the industry. They're more of like a connector. And then Bruce will go back and update the information in the people files. He might ask me like, where are these 5 people from? And I'll just give him like where 5 people live. And he updates that information. So he's doing a little bit more of a multivariate thing. But what he does now is he gives me like a brief every 2 weeks. Hey, these are the 3 people I recommend you should reach out to and why. And usually 2 out of 3, I'm like, holy shit, those are great suggestions. Like it really has been a minute since I talked to that person. And usually there's a little rationale that Bruce attaches to that. So he is like beginning to identify kind of novel connections or novel relationships among things and connecting dots that I don't have the time to connect myself.
So Joe, since it's via Discord, how much of that are you doing just on the go from your phone?
A little bit. I mean, I still usually it's like a morning on my laptop activity with like a little coffee. I'm doing like most of that like relationship
That's your
mapping
Bruce time.
stuff.
You and Bruce.
That's my Bruce time. But
Coffee
during
and
the day,
Bruce.
I mean, I'm in front of my laptop most of the time during the day, and even on the weekend, I am the kind of sap who will like crack open Discord and experiment with something on the weekend. Usually, I'm still using my laptop and cracking open Discord and just DMing Bruce. There's a whole mothballed wing of Bruce or studio rather that I still am going to get off the ground, which is the client portal part of this. That's been a little bit, something we used to work on together, a little bit something I worked on with TJ Petrie for a minute, a little bit like something I worked on that's super friendly. Like I've been trying to chase this client portal dragon for the past like 15 years. And Bruce is making it very possible. Like Bruce is making it eminently possible to build out this kind of new interface. Right now, we kind of call it trail maps, right?
Trail map, yeah.
Trail map. But like, I think there's even a version of that is a souped up version of that I've always had rattling around in my head that we're still kind of, hammering into shape.
Yeah, we put a little bit of time into it, but it needs some major love. I do think actually, something we've been talking about recently is Bruce is Bruce is very much the biz dev focused guy, and do we need other agents that would be more focused?
Right.
One on that internal project management and tracking and client communication,
Yeah.
one on marketing side that helps us out with like this show and what we're putting out on the internet. I think there's a case to be made that we should break it up in that way because of the areas of expertise, the areas of interest, the data that we want operating on. We don't really want the biz dev stuff going into those other areas. We don't want project updates, like to Joe's point, clouding out things that are in our biz dev focused interfaces. So as we've, we're a couple of months in with Bruce at this point, as we figured out what works, what we like, what we don't like, what we do use, I think it's probably maybe, when the weather gets worse and we're inside more and it gets dark early, then maybe it's more time spent on, all right, let's let's actually do trail map and let's make that run by somebody else, and Jasenia can name the person this time. Or I guess we decided it's going to be Christina Aguilera based instead of the Springsteen based Bruce that we have. So what
Unless
was
Wow.
your
we come up
domain,
with
Jasenia? What was your
another Jersey
URL back in the
person.
day?
Oh my
Yeah, what was
god.
your
Well, no, my
domain?
thing was like I was an ex-Tina ran a Christina Aguilera fan site.
Yeah, what
Right.
was the URL for it? Didn't you have a URL?
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh yeah, but
Wasn't it -online.net? My favorite
it was
URL
like
structure.
it was like Aguilera. Yeah, it was like Aguilera-online.net. It was like something
Yeah.
ridiculous like that.
I
Yeah.
bought and I remember that because I have a URL in my list of domains that I own that was purchased when we worked at Happy Cog, and I bought anthony-online.net, and that has been a domain that has remained in my ownership for more
That
than
is
10 years
so
now, thanks to
funny.
you.
Oh my god. That is hilarious.
It is my favorite version. Like, how many times? I mean, this show is nearly getting that bad. But like, how many times in your URL can you tell me that this is the thing I should go to the internet to find?
Mm.
That's what I like about it.
Right,
Right.
right.
This
That's
show
so
is
funny.
definitely it.
Oh man.
It's definitely
Yeah.
the thing you should go to the internet.
Pineworksbusiness.biz. Is it a business? I don't. I think so.
Fireworks.online.net.
Yeah. Suppose to the
Oh, that's
offline.net
hilarious.
variant.
Pineworksllc.com.
Yeah.
Someone had asked a question around if you use a local model to power Bruce, or is it an OpenClaw bot tied to a major provider API? Basically, how much does Bruce cost in tokens?
God knows. It's tied to my. I don't know. Am I allowed to say this? Are they going to get mad at me? Ryan's always convinced that OpenClaw or the provider's going to get mad at me for running this way, but OpenClaw can use your ChatGPT subscription if you authenticate it that way.
Yes.
So it is hooked up through my ChatGPT subscription. I'm on the $200 a month plan. I have no idea what the usage actually means on ChatGPT because I have Bruce running on mine. I have my own agent Hayden who helps me with the podcast production that I do in my own world. My wife has an OpenClaw agent who runs on my ChatGPT subscription. Although no, I think that runs on hers now. And then I just sit here all day and I plow through multiple projects on Codex, and I've never dipped below like 90% of my weekly usage. So
don't be a token counter, is what I say. Just do the thing.
Yeah, I mean it's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
At some point we'll encounter that, and I think when we started out with Bruce, we were in the era where we could run that through a Claude subscription. So I think his first couple of weeks or months of life was
that was a little
Claude-based
spicy.
guy. Yeah, and then when they got in a fight with the OpenClaw people, you can't use his subscription anymore. Though I think that has come back to some extent. I need to look into that. But he's running. I updated him last night, so he's running ChatGPT 5.6 Soul on varying levels of reasoning across different tasks. Fun tech talk. Yes.
Yeah, I also have my agent. I also have a personal agent that I use that is like Bruce-like, but for other like non-Pineworks biz dev areas of my life. And he's also in Discord, and he runs also Codex or ChatGPT, whatever. I have not updated him though to the latest, so I probably need to do that.
Yeah, you should. They're good models, these things.
Yeah, but like similar, like what Bruce does, a lot of things behind the scenes. I know Anthony, your agent does as well, and mine does like research tasks and reports for me every morning. I get reports on Discord showing me like, as just one example, one of the CMSs we use is Craft CMS, and they're building version 6. I have my agent watch that GitHub repository and report to me every morning of changes that it thinks I'll be interested in. And so I just have it do like research behind the scenes like that. So there's lots of different ways. You don't have to do a biz dev bot, but there's lots of different ways that you can use these. I think that, our next one would be like for this project, we should talk about this on the internet project, and our pineworks.co site is like a marketing outward facing bot that's going to handle all that publishing. The we should talk about this on the internet site is is created by agents and published by agents and updated by agents. There's no humans, there's no CMS at all. Which when we started working with Bruce in studio, that kind of gave me the taste for agent driven web pages and stuff. I don't know what else to call it right now. but just no
That's
humans
going to be a
filling
future
out
topic.
forms. We've been freed
Because
from
like
filling
the
out forms.
the amount of times that we've set up forms for clients and then had to train them on what the buttons do, and it's like when we started working with this, we're like, what if you just told it, hey,
Yeah.
the homepage should reflect this messaging now.
Yeah.
We need to work out a system where when we have a client that has strict publishing standards or has marketing
Right.
departments that need to be approved, like that stuff shouldn't go
Yeah.
out to production immediately. But
Right.
could anyone in a company spin up edits to a site or new versions of a site based on rule sets that we put in place and have that go through a publishing process versus something that would be a traditional CMS? That is something we should talk about. But a somewhat related thing,
Yeah.
Ryan, I wanted to mention is that one cool thing we've done with Bruce. I just kicked this off a couple minutes ago, so I'll let you know if it comes back in time to include on this show. But Bruce has all of our meetings, all of our statements of work, all of our project updates that we've given in the last however many months this has been. He's actually writing back right now. He can compare the way that we market Pineworks and the things that we say that we do compared to what we actually do, which has drifted a lot over the years.
Very
Because
cool.
again, much like the biz dev documentation, we are busy enough that we don't keep updated the front door of Pineworks to the extent that we should. So having that to kind of do some ground game research for you of like, here's what you say you do, here's what you actually do. You might want to orient it in this way more. When you build up a critical mass of intelligence that it's operating on, that's enlightening, maybe scary to some people if they realize, oh shit, we're like totally drifted away from the thing that I thought we were doing here. I think for us it's exciting because we tend not to stay on one thing for too long. We like to keep our skills fresh across the board and keep trying new things out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that is so exciting about this is I forget what this is called, but I always think about, when you leave enter a different room and you forget, you go to a room to get something and you forget it's called the doorway effect. It's like once you cross the doorway, you forget why the context from the previous room that you were at.
Yeah.
And I think about that in relation to like digital experiences so much, because that's the whole thing about, you have a complete thought in your head, and at the moment that you have to translate it into a bunch of form fields and click buttons, you have like lost it. At least I do. Or like the moment that I have to take an intent and translate it into a spreadsheet, it's gone. And so what is really exciting about that, it's like Bruce meets you where you work. And it is absorbing complete thoughts, and it can and then work on behalf of a complete thought, and you don't have to deconstruct and reconstruct your own thinking, which is exciting.
And it for me, it's a total blessing. I am infinitely smarter when I'm talking. There is a thing about my brain where when I am in a conversation with someone, I am actually smarter. Like I think of things I wouldn't have thought of by myself. You could put me in front of a computer for an hour and I'll never have the ideas or the little epiphanies that come out of a back and forth with somebody else. So the fact that so much of what Bruce is built on is transcription based. Like I will record Loom videos before we were using Granola. I would record like a Loom video and then take the transcript from that and then feed that to things and start to like I would like prompt engineer based on just me talking and recording and then being able to say things out loud. I truly like 75% through a sentence, I figure out the last 25% of the sentence. And this has been incredibly powerful for me. If I had to do exactly what you're saying, just saying, you sit down and now go through the translation process of thinking about this like cells in a spreadsheet, or even like when I sit down and write in a doc of some kind, like the idea is fully formed. I want to dump it in language. I don't want to then hammer it out in text and then lose, some of the fidelity. I don't lose all of it, but I lose probably, 0 to 30% of what the full thought was by the time I get to the end of typing page 1 or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, that's so
we're not
interesting.
Sponsored,
I've done that with
thing. I just want to shout out the Granola Watch app.
Yeah.
They launched a Watch OS app that you can just hit start Granola and just talk to your wrist. Like you don't have to talk to your wrist, but I just turn it on when I'm driving in my car alone to get a bunch of thoughts out, and then that goes into Granola and eventually makes its way to Bruce. It is the best thing of all time.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm getting that now.
Yeah.
I've started, when I try to figure out a design strategy or like a design project plan, I'll do a friction log record myself going through the experience and just noting everything that sucks about the experience, and then having AI turn that into a plan. And so it's like
Wow.
interesting.
Diss track driven
correlate.
design.
Yeah, I mean, we did that a lot at
Where's my
Shopify,
horn?
like friction log, where we literally would record ourselves
That's
just
amazing.
going through even parts of someone else's user experience and sending it to them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's a very good way of getting it all out there, being candid, and then that an AI agent can translate that into a structure that becomes a project plan is really much more productive.
Because your input, similar to like Joe's input into Bruce, is that human take on things is the most powerful part of it. Bruce just kind of takes all that and synthesizes it. But without like what we're doing, the phone calls that we have, especially like our Tuesday calls where we're discussing projects and Bruce takes that, or we like whisper to Bruce like, hey Bruce, just so you know, like X, Y, and Z. That's still like the critical piece. Bruce just is behind the scenes, just doing the thing that's very admin-y, that isn't very interesting to any of us. It seems so obvious now, but we
There's
spent
also
so long
like
putting
this
things into
is
forms.
There's one aspect to this that I think if people are going to set this up in their own world, that you need to honestly assess the relationship you have with the people that you're setting this up with. We have a very trusting relationship between all of us, in that we have not had to set up a lot of firewalls in Bruce's existence, because I mean, it's limited to just the Fireworks crew, but I could, and I experimented this when Joe was doing his game of like enriching contacts. I was like, who did Joe enrich this week, and what did he tell Bruce about? That could cause chaos and harm if left unattended. But it's also really useful because if I was on a trip or out of the office or whatever, I can say to Bruce, hey, is there anything in the last couple of days that needed my input that I haven't gotten to anyone yet? Like this kind of cross-cutting organizational management features we probably underuse in that way, and we're using him as a scribe, but not as an activator. But that's definitely something that I feel like we should push harder on.
Yep. Agreed.
I agree.
All right.
That's Bruce.
That's Bruce. Bruce is changing every day, getting better. I think next time we should talk about more about agents creating things for us and preventing us from filling out forms.
I want to talk more about friction
Ryan,
logs.
I'm
I want to
super
talk about
curious about the CMS vision,
Yeah.
anti-CMS vision that you have.
And I'm
I'm a
about
CMS
just
guy. Look at him.
to wrap this up. I'm about to tell Claude that we're done, publish the episode, and what Claude is going to do is going to go and get this episode, create a podcast from it, and publish it to our site so everybody's podcast apps get updated. And because who wants to do all that
Run
work?
that through.
Not me.
Well, also tell everybody that if they're listening to us on you're live streaming this on Twitter, on YouTube,
Yep.
and people can hear this in the podcasts.
Yep.
So if you're listening to this and you would rather it somewhere else, I bet it's available.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's not, then let me know, and I'll the bots will do the thing, and it'll be done.
Yeah, great.
All right, good talk.
We talked
We'll
about
see
it on
y'all
the
next
internet.
time. We should talk about
Bye.
this on the internet. Ciao.
Bye, y'all.